It's just we're ready to go live. It always happens. Like right when you hit go, all of a sudden the tickle starts coming up in your throat. One time I took a swallow of water and literally like was coughing it everywhere live on the air. People are like, Emily, are you okay? Welcome everybody. If you're coming on while we are just getting situated here. I'm Emily Harrison. I am the founder and director here at the Akashic Academy, where we are bringing forward this ancient, awesome knowledge that has been suppressed on our planet for so long. We are creating a space for people who want to understand more about growing their consciousness and connecting more with spirit. If you're ready to make that a priority in your life, you are in the right place. Say hi to us once you get here. Those comments rolling in and all of those likes and those shares, I invite you guys to share this out. Really helps Facebook to push this out into the public feed, which of course is what we want. We want people talking about things like being psychic and about like using your intuitive gifts and skills and abilities, because this is transforming the planet right now. And my guest, I'm really excited to introduce you guys to Liberty Forrest. I met her through my dear friend and partner here at the Academy, Coach Nick. And one of my favorite things that I saw that Liberty and I had in common right away, besides using our intuitive gifts and skills and abilities, is we're both writers for the Huffington Post, and I always have a special place in my heart for writers. And I'm really excited to have Liberty share about her story today, because I know, like I said, so many of us on the planet right now are really developing these intuitive skills and abilities, and many of us are being called to use them to serve the planet right now. We're being called to make major transitions and shifts in our lives. We've had a lot of eclipse seasons happening. We had a major solar eclipse going across the United States last summer. We've had the eclipse season from the beginning of this year, and it signals a lot of transition, a lot of change in our life. I saw Brian Cable saying hello to us here. Brian actually has left a job in corporate America and has opened his own spiritual store, Mantra, in Missouri. I know, so cool. I know. So if you feel compelled to have that big shift in your life happening all over the planet, we are here to support you through that process. With no further ado, allow me to introduce Liberty to everybody. Liberty, hello, and welcome to our show.
Hello, and thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to always excited for an opportunity to chat with you, and very much fun to talk about psychic things.
I know, it's so fun. So, Liberty, when did this whole psychic business, the intuitive nature of who you were, come to the forefront? Did it happen when you were a kid? Did it happen later on in your life? Like, when did you start thinking, oh, okay, this is real and I got the gift?
Well, first of all, I had no choice but to know it was real the first time, and I certainly did not think it was a gift. Because of what happened and when it happened. So
cool. Tell us about it. Give us the details.
I'll give you the dirt. So I was a kid back in the dark ages, and I'd had a dream that my two best friends were dead. And I woke up and I couldn't shake this awful, awful sinking feeling. And I was getting ready for school, and it was upsetting, but there was just this feeling that hung on, and I didn't know why. So I went to the kitchen for breakfast and sat down at the table, and my parents were both sitting there, which was unusual. My dad was usually sort of off watching TV or something, but they were both sitting there. Anyway, I sat down and I told them immediately, like, I had this awful dream. I can't shake this feeling. They just looked at each other. Like, my dad got up and went to the living room and came back a moment later with the morning paper and put an article in front of me. And there it was. They were dead. Their family had been in a collision with a train during a blizzard, and the two girls were dead. So, yeah, that was pretty awful. And awful that they were dead. And I was just trying to absorb that. Awful that, what do you mean kids die? Like, what?
Yeah.
That was sort of part two. And then the worst thing, how on earth did I know? Because this, like I said, this was in the dark ages, so to speak. This wasn't a thing. Nobody was talking about this. I didn't know about this sort of thing. There was no Long Island medium. There was no John Edward. Nobody was having mind, body, spirit expos. There were no psychic fairs. There was none of this. So it was absolutely terrifying. So it did not feel like a gift.
Right.
means, and because I was just left trying to figure out how the heck did I know this, and it was
Yeah, like what happened then? I mean, obviously you're dealing with this terrible catastrophe that's happened in your community. Did the fact that you had this precognitive dream get like shoved aside because everyone was dealing with the grief, or did your parents address that, or what happened next with the fact that you knew this was going to happen and nobody told you?
well, I don't know how other people were really dealing with it, but I think that I was in big denial about it. I refused to go to the funeral. So in some bizarre way, kind of thinking if I don't go, it didn't happen. I remember really thinking that no, it didn't happen. I'm not going. And I regretted that later. And it was about 20 years before I went to their graves. That was terrible. Anyway, so I was left dealing with that I knew, and how could they have come in a dream to tell me? How does that? Didn't understand. Just didn't understand it. And as I said, I had nowhere to go with that because it wasn't what people spoke about. So over the next several years, I mean, and it started right away, I have to say. That was like opening a big old can of worms. And then everything, it was like a floodgate. Suddenly I started knowing all sorts of things. I was having more dreams about things. I have to say, too, I grew up in a pretty frightening and hostile environment, so that there were probably other things that I might have picked up on, except that I was not aware of these subtler energies because I was just so busy sort of trying to survive one day to the next, with the fear and things. But there were probably other things that I just didn't pick up on. But after that, and then I left home not long after that. I had just turned 16 when this happened, and I moved out shortly after that. So I think sometimes, in part, it might have been that because I left home and I wasn't in that frightening an environment, I was more able to be aware. Or perhaps just that it made me pay more attention. Maybe a bit of both, I don't know. But it naturally started to evolve, and I was still pretty frightened about it. Still didn't understand it. Now, and then it was not just when I was asleep and having dreams like that, because that continued to happen, but it was also when I was awake, and I would just know things. I'd feel like something's wrong somewhere. I need to call so and so. There's a problem, or it was when I was awake as well. And over the years, it evolved to the point where I started mentioning it to a few people. By then, people were talking about it a little bit, and still didn't really know much about it. But this one woman who I really trusted told me it happened because I was possessed by Satan.
Whoa.
Yeah. I was super terrified then. I'd never thought about Satan.
Well, did you believe her? Did you feel like, well, that must be why this is happening?
I didn't know, because I until then, I'd never considered Satan in my life. I wasn't particularly religious, didn't really, I had some sense of some kind of spiritual things going on, but I never really thought about Satan. And then I thought, oh, dear God, what if she's right? What if that's right? And then I was really scared. So it was another few years after that, I was probably about in my mid-20s, before I realized that it was a gift. I realized that, well, actually, that was kind of a leap. Do you want to know how I got to that bit, or I'm just rambling here? But
no, I love this story. You guys love this story? I'm like, oh my gosh, this is intense. No, and I think that it's good to share the way that we come about learning what our gifts and abilities are. I had my experience has been pretty Pollyanna along the way. I think a lot of people have had darker experiences, and I think I think you're creating a space for people to talk about that and to identify with the darker part of it. If you had a darker experience getting to the place where your gifts are intact, I think people can identify. So yeah, keep talking, keep telling the story.
Okay, thanks. So, as I said, I was still having these dreams and that sort of thing. And then it got like, it was getting to be not just people I was really close to. It was friends of people I knew and things like that, like friend of a friend sort of a thing, and I'd be dreaming that so and so is, you know, somebody's dead, or like just this got really, it was getting to be ridiculous. So I was really becoming disturbed by this, especially as this was around the time this woman told me this whole Satan thing. So I asked her, well, why? Where did she get this? Why is this?
Right.
You know? And she said there was a verse in the book of Deuteronomy in the Bible where it says something about not seeing soothsayers, right? Not seeing fortune tellers. So I thought, well, okay, so what? And she says, oh, well, you know, we have to follow what's in that. It's, you know, it's God's law, blah, blah, blah. And at that point in my life, I had started going to church, but I never called myself a Christian. It never felt right for me. It didn't fit, but I believed there was God or something, but I was cramming it down my own throat and trying to make it fit because I didn't know what else. I didn't know I even had a choice to go elsewhere. And boy, did I go elsewhere later. But anyway, so at that time, I thought, well, let me read this Bible then. And because she, you know, I'm gonna read the whole Bible. So she's like, oh no, you don't need to read the whole thing. You just need to worry about the New Testament. You know, there's a new covenant. Just worry about the new part. I said, well, but you're a line from the Old Testament and cramming it down my throat about it being satanic, for God's sake. So, well, I didn't put it that way, of course, but but she, you know, I said, no, you're digging this up out of the Old Testament. I'm reading the whole thing. Oh no, I don't really need. Yeah, I do need to. So I did. I read the entire Bible cover to cover. Oh dear, what a book. Leviticus, nothing but blood, guts, and gore. Anyway, what was interesting was in Deuteronomy, there were a whole lot of other laws that she ignored. We're not sacrificing animals and taking them to a temple every beginning of the month or every second Thursday of the week after lunch, or I don't know, whatever all the things were, right? And stoning our neighbors because of committing adultery or whatever.
Right.
I know it's all in the same book. And I said to her, well, how does that work? You know, if you can pick this one out and say, oh, yeah, you have to follow this. But she said, oh, no, you don't need to pay attention to the rest. Oh, well, then I guess I'm not going to pay attention to that one either. So it was around that same time, like that kind of just relieved a lot of the pressure for me. I just thought, if we're not doing all of these other things, then this whole satanic thing doesn't apply. So I just kind of ignored it after that. I have to say there was still a little bit of a, you know, just in case.
Yep.
But, you know, it took a while for that fear to completely go. And then around that time, as I said, this whole thing with knowing about, it was deaths. Deaths usually happened or came to me in dreams. That I knew someone was dead. That was usually in a dream until, oh dear. There was one Father's Day. No coughing. It's so dry here. Hope I don't cough and take your ears off. Fighting the urge. Anyway, it was a Father's Day, and it was the first time, and actually turned out to be the only time, when my dad and I were actually going to do something for Father's Day. So it was a big deal. But I had awakened that morning in the wee hours, like 2, 3 o'clock, and I felt like something was really wrong. And I was sort of shaking, like trembling, not sort of visibly shaking, but I felt like, you know, when the radio isn't quite tuned and you get that fuzzy thing you can't quite hear, it felt like that in my head. And something just was off, and I felt kind of sick, and I was really distracted. And by then I had become the church organist and choir director, which still makes me laugh, but I did that for a long time. Cramming those hymns down my throat. I do love it. And the prayers.
Maybe that's why you're coughing now. You're trying to get all that out that you crammed down the throat for all those years.
I think it's just that it's -17 and super dry here. Anyway, that's funny. I like that. So I couldn't sleep after that. And I got through church really distracted. And I went to this thing with my dad. And I was so I was feeling so unwell, I actually had to leave. What we ended up doing was calling my mom, and she came in my place, and I went home, so at least the dinner theater wasn't wasted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this feeling hung on, and all through Monday, and then it just suddenly went Monday at 6 o'clock, just gone. And I thought, what the heck was that all about? I didn't know. I thought some
Mm-hmm.
bizarre anxiety attack or something. I didn't know. And it was a few months after that, because that was June, being Father's Day. It was in October that year. I was out one evening, did some shopping, went to get my groceries at a place where I didn't normally shop. And I ran into the guy packing up the groceries was the brother of a beautiful young man that I used to live with and who was also a very dear friend. And I said, "Oh, yeah, how are you? La, la, la. And how's Brian?" Um, well, turned out he had committed suicide. And and then as the conversation progressed, he said, because Brian had a lot of trouble with the father. There were other issues as well, but he did it very early morning hours on Father's Day.
Mm.
Was when this started. And they didn't find his body until Monday at about 6 o'clock when his former roommate showed up. Yeah, so that whole time that he was lying there dead in his apartment.
Yeah, that's when you were feeling that heaviness.
Yeah, he was trying to tell me until he was found.
Liberty. Okay. How the heck did you get out from underneath all of the heaviness that this gift had caused in the beginning of your life and turn it into a career where you're helping people? Like what did the turning process look like for you?
Well, over time, as it became something that was more talked about, started hearing about it, a little bit more acceptable. I started feeling less afraid of it, and just allowing. Well, I was already, I guess, allowing it by then. Just wasn't fearing it anymore. And the more I did that, the more these things happened to me. And then um, I remember the first time. It was several years after that, but I remember sitting with a friend when this old lady popped in from spirit and was standing there next to my friend across from me and kind of, you know, kind of not, well, actually, I think that one was doing that or something, some version of that. And this had happened before. It wasn't the first time, but this had happened. I'd be sitting with somebody I knew and spirits would pop in and I'd be thinking, like, go away, just I didn't want to say.
Did you actually see them? Or are they in your mind's eye? You see them like standing behind the person, like Long Island medium kind of style.
Yes.
Okay.
But I didn't dare say anything because I thought it was going to upset them. Because remember, this is still before it was the thing it is now. But at least I wasn't afraid of it. But so there I am with people and thinking, well, if I say anything, this could be scary. You're not scary, but upsetting, right? Because it's someone who's in spirit, and I didn't want to make them cry. But this one particular day, I don't know what it was, but this little old lady was really in my face, and I had to speak up. It was just like I was compelled to say to my friend, "There's this lady here," and, describe this. I was a bit reluctant. And as it turned out, this was her grandmother with a message that was meaningful. I don't think it was a big, powerful, life-changing message, but it was enough that it meant something to her. And yeah, there were some tears, but she was so happy to know that her grandmother was there and was so grateful for the message. And I thought, oh, so that's how this works. I guess I'm supposed to.
Awesome.
So it still took a while not to be hesitant about it, but the more I did it and saw a positive response, the more I thought, okay, I guess I'm supposed to do this. So it just kind of was, again, happening quite frequently and, became a good thing. It got a little weird when, oh dear, I was living in England and I saw somebody across the pub, somebody I didn't know, a young man, got his pint from the bar and was walking across to sit down at his table. And suddenly I knew I had to give him a message. Thought, oh no, come on. One thing when it's somebody I know, but you really
Right.
want just in England where it's old fashioned, and I can't imagine that was going to go down very well. Are you kidding me? No. All right. I knew. Don't edit. It's not my place to edit. So I'm just the messenger. So I think I probably took a good shot of my wine before I went across. Whiskey would have been better. But anyway, no, I'm not advocating that. Anyway, went over and I said to this guy, well, this might sound a little weird, but, and so I passed on this message. And he was very emotional, but he just said, oh my goodness, thank you. That meant so much to me. You have no idea.
Mm-hmm.
That was the real confirming thing for me, that wherever this happens, whenever this happens, I am supposed to pass these messages along. And somewhere around that time, someone that I knew, that was a whole other big story there, because he went from complete skeptic about this.
Mm-hmm.
You want to hear that story too? Anyway,
sure. So tell us that quick story, and then guys, I'm gonna let you guys ask some questions if you have a question for Liberty. So start thinking about questions that you might want to ask. Start typing them in, because we'll go back through the comments and we'll find some questions. And Liberty, also, after you tell us this story, make sure you probably give us the guidelines first, because there are going to be some people out there that are going to be typing in their questions already. So go ahead and give them the guidelines about the question. And then while people are thinking and typing in their questions, tell us about the skeptic who became a believer after
really,
hanging out.
really, yeah. Okay, so I won't answer health questions. You need to see your preferred alternative or conventional or whatever health practitioner for that. There are times when I'm doing a reading and somebody might have some kind of a health issue, and I can maybe pick up that there's some not environmental, but like maybe a relationship issue or some emotional issue, something that might be contributing, but I'm not going to give you health advice. So don't ask those. I also had my very first call when I worked on the psychic phone lines in England, and the very first call I had, this guy actually said, so I just want to know if I should fold my business and go bankrupt. Excuse me? Shouldn't you be talking to a financial advisor? Don't. So yeah, I now, if it's about, say, a career choice or change or something like that, that's different. I can always look at that sort of thing, but I can't tell you how to spend your money or to make big decisions like that. And then you get people who want to know if somebody really did commit that crime, in the family. No, I'm no. Be sensible about what you're asking. So.
Okay, so those are your guidelines in terms of questions that you guys can throw out to Liberty today. And now, tell us about the guy who's a total skeptic who became a believer.
Yeah, he was a journalist I met over. I'd won an outstanding achievement award because I did 3 books in 8 months or something, and I was in the paper. So he contacted me and wanted to do a personality profile page on me. So we became friends after that, and he was completely skeptical, bordering on cynical, when I mentioned being psychic and a medium, and 2 separate things. And he wanted some proof. So he ended up challenging me. He had a little book called Who's Buried Where in Northamptonshire, which is where we lived. And I said, well, okay. It was pressure, because not only did I prove that I had these abilities, I had to prove that anybody could do this.
Right.
It felt like it was a much bigger picture question. So he would find that it was a little book full of sort of page or half-page blurbs about people who were famous or infamous in that county. And he would load me into the car, and away we'd go to a cemetery, and he would find the grave, and I would come up behind it so I couldn't see anything on the headstone. And then I would just stand there and tune in and start picking up information. And right from the first one I did, he was just blown away. And it became the thing we did on the Saturday night. It became our we used to call them ghost hunts. And just information would come immediately. And yeah, he was right from the first one, just like I couldn't make it up. He got to the point where at one point he said he thought maybe I had bought the book, but he said I couldn't have possibly memorized all these details
Mm-hmm.
about people and which cemetery they were in. And I never knew where we were going. I didn't even know the village we were going. Never mind, who it was. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so he was
Awesome. Good work, sister. I
thanks.
don't love getting challenged like that. Like every now and then when I'll do an Akashic record reading for somebody, I'll sense that they're testing me in that way. And just like you don't like you're like, no, I don't do the health questions. I don't tell you what you should do with your money. I don't particularly love it when people start challenging me in that way, but I do like it when I get it right. Makes me feel like, okay, yes, this is real. Not that I doubt it, but every now and then, like when somebody's putting a challenge in your face, the pressure starts to mount a little bit and you're like, I don't want to get it wrong. So thank you for being so good at that and getting it right, because I believe anytime any one of us is working on growing ourselves in a certain way and then we share our story, it's like taking a machete and hacking down the path as we're going through the forest. So you've helped me a lot in just by telling that story today. All right, so we've got some questions rolling in. Mike Capo, and Mike's been very awesome at wearing his Pollyanna pants today. He's put some nice spins on some of the darkness that you shared. Mike and I must be wearing the same pants. But Mike has always commented a lot. So Mike, I would love to put your question out there for Liberty. You'd like to ask if anyone has a message for him, how he can best serve humanity at this time.
Oh gosh, that's a big one. Let me just have a moment and tune in.
Okay.
That's more like a private reading kind of question, just because it feels that big, if you know what I mean, in terms of the depth. But let's just see where I go with that. The first thing that's coming up is childhood and children. So I just need to connect whether that's to do with your own childhood being relevant here, Mike, or if it's to do with you and somehow having a focus on children. But if
Mike's a teacher.
Oh,
I know this about him because Mike is a member of the Akashic Academy and my friend, but Liberty doesn't know this about you.
No, I don't. Shh, no, don't tell me anything. I don't yeah, little emoji guy with the zipper. Shh, you should know how this works. Don't tell me stuff.
I just got all excited. Okay, yes.
Okay. Wow, there's Mike. You've got a really huge ability with. Certainly, your psychic awareness is huge. You're super sensitive. I feel like you'd also be extremely good at the tarot. I don't know whether you do it or have done it or have considered it, but I feel like tarot would be something you would pick up really easily and could be one way that you can really be helpful. But there's a big emphasis. Again, I'm coming back to this thing with children, and I'm glad that you're teaching because I guess that's a part of how it fits. It does feel like I do want to say that there's something connecting your childhood with this serving humanity. And I feel as though there's something that's specifically about perhaps like foster children or sponsoring children, like third world children, or something along that line. That seems to be what's coming up, that there's a bigger way that you can help more children, like I said, sponsoring children, or if it's Water Aid, one of those organizations or something where it feels like that, but definitely with children. So I don't know whether that makes any sense. If you could let me know, Mike, if that resonates or something you've been interested in. And the tarot piece is important as well.
Cool. All right, so we'll wait for Mike's response to that. Jason Asquith would like to know about his grandpa, if his grandpa is proud of things that he has done at his house.
Grandpa is beaming, and Grandpa is very much like a little kid. He's got like a very childlike, beautiful, sweet energy. He feels like a very warm person. I don't think everybody saw that in him. He's got kind of a little bit of a gruff exterior, but there's this lovely, childlike, playful quality that's kind of jumping up and down and going, yes. So if you can let me know if that makes some sense to you, I'd be ever so excited. But yes, he's very pleased. You're also very creative, he tells me, in not necessarily in a traditional way. So you're not necessarily, having paintings hanging in museums, but you are really creative is what he's wanting to acknowledge. And he's showing me your hands. So there's like building, which might sound obvious to do with what you've done at the house, but I don't know what you've done. So that may not be obvious, but this is what I'm getting is that you like tools, and it's more than just what you've done at the house. There's a creativity in you that he's really proud of. And it feels as though this is, I don't know if this is the work that you do or if this is just a really big hobby, but I get a sense of things like that you're building and creating big things. I don't know, furniture or something like working with wood or something like that. Does that make any sense to you?
I just zip in my mouth. You're so good. That's all I'm going to say, Liberty.
Okay.
You're really good. All right, Jason. Let us know if that resonates with you, my friend. We are running a little low on time here, so I am going to just blast up one more question. Mike says true. Mike is commenting there. Yes. Let's see, there was another person who asked early on here. Here we go. Sascha wanted to know about her mother who had passed 10 years ago, if her mother has any messages coming through for her. And guys, I'm going to let Liberty just kind of tune in right there so that she can bring forward that knowledge. I see a lot of really awesome questions coming in. If you guys would like to reach out to Liberty and schedule a reading so that you can get further answers on these, I will make sure that we post Liberty's information about where you can find her, okay?
Okay. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it was Sascha was the name?
It was Sascha, yes. I'll go back and put her message back up there.
Okay. I just want to make sure, well, I guess it's hard for you to confirm this because I like to connect or make sure I've got the right person.
Mm-hmm.
So assuming I have the correct person, this woman feels to me to be, oh gosh, how do I describe her? She's got such beautiful energy, kind of, I want to say larger than life, but not in a big way. Like I feel kind of a bit more on the quiet side. I can feel it. It's hard to describe it. Like she wasn't an extrovert and in your face, but she had a big energy, a big presence. Like people respected her. And there's this beautiful warmth about her. Sorry, I always look away. It's just a thing where I'm focusing on it. I can see over there. So this is why I'm looking over there. And I feel that she's kind of, I feel her sort of elevated as though people looked up to her, admired her, and this sort of thing. So I hope I have the right woman, Sascha. If you can confirm, that would be helpful. And there's just a minute there. I'm sorry to take time, and I know you're running over, but I have to.
No, it's okay. I'm the boss around here. We can go a little later if we need to.
She's talking about you being that there's been a period of feeling very alone and feeling like isolated or lost. Isolated maybe isn't right, but something like that. But there's like this aching, like a loneliness, and almost like the universe has abandoned you, or just feeling like wanting to give up. Just if you can let me know if any of this connects, it's helpful.
I went and found her comment. She's saying yes.
Thank you. And but what she's telling me is, if you're still in this period, or if this period has passed or is passing, she wants you to know that she's always there with you. And she's really proud of you pulling yourself out of these times, because she's saying it isn't just once. It's something that seems to sort of keep coming up. And in part, she says it's related to her. So I guess missing her. But she wants you to know that you are, she's always there with you. And she would like it if you would talk to her more, and especially when you're having those those periods. She's also talking about self-doubt being an issue for you. And she's giving you a hug. She's putting her arms around you and she's just saying, don't ever doubt yourself. She's talking about, you being so gifted and talented. And she's so very proud of you. And never, ever doubt yourself, she says, never. And she says sometimes that comes from other people. It's other people's beliefs, other people, the way they treat you and this sort of thing. She's like, never mind them. And she's just about trusting. She's saying just to trust yourself. Don't doubt yourself. She also wants me to tell you how very much she loves you and how proud of you she is. And again, to make sure that you talk to her. She loves that, and she's always there with you. So if you could let me know if that made some sense, that would be helpful. Thanks.
Beautiful. Ooh, I can feel that mama energy coming in when you're bringing that through. She's got some strong mother energy. All right, I just want to share some updates coming in. Mike Capo says, awesome. Thank you very much. His son is adopted. Beautiful. And then you can read up there the rest of, I've got tears in my eyes right now myself, so it's a little tough for me to read that. Jason also says tears for the message that you brought in from Grandpa, and he says, thank you very much. Yes, he says a thank you here. And then Sascha, if you have any other things that you would like to add, Sascha, or any other confirmations for Liberty, go ahead and share those with us now. Liberty, where can they come find you? If they need more information, and there are lots of questions rolling in, if you guys want to track Liberty down for, here's Sascha. She says, oh my gosh, this is so accurate. She's in tears. No, I feel it. Ooh, Mary's feeling it too. I'm feeling it too. It's powerful. Thank you so much for sharing your gift with us here today. Where can we come find you?
It's my honor. I really appreciate the opportunity, and I'm so glad to have connected briefly with these beautiful people in spirit and your viewers. You can find me. You can email me at info@yourstoryofhope.com. So that tells you the website, yourstoryofhope.com.
I'm putting this up here on the screen right now. If you can go back and put it in the comments later so it's easy for people to find, that'd be awesome too. info@yourstoryofhope.com.
Yes. And I thank you. I absolutely love connecting with people in spirit. It's been a journey to get to the point of feeling that way. And if I can just take another minute, I really wanted to address something that you were saying before, because it might help other people who have this ability. You were talking about that thing where you just go like, oh, thank heaven I got it right, that pressure. And I will say that for a number of years, I rejected, really. I was uncomfortable doing readings. I was always good when I got into them because I was getting it right. I kept doing it right. I was doing 5 years of monthly psychic phone-ins on the BBC. They don't have you back if you're not good. Like I knew I could do this, but there was still this, praying that if I had an appointment, it was going to cancel, or that I was doing a stage event, it would cancel. It was ridiculous, but I was always fine when I was in it. And then I just stopped doing readings for a long time. I just rejected them because I couldn't take this confidence issue, this pressure. And then I had an epiphany, and I understood. That's a longer story, but the short version is, it was literally in a moment. I understood. I remembered having a conversation with a medium friend in England who's an award-winning medium, a TV medium. He's brilliant. And he was saying about how, every time he leaves spirit work, his life kind of falls apart. And I said, well, guess if you're called to do this work, then, the universe will make it miserable for you until you get with the program and do what you're meant to do. And suddenly I remembered having this conversation with him, and I went, oh, maybe that's why my life's a bit tits up. And then I looked at and I thought, maybe I'm supposed to embrace doing readings. And then I thought about all the ones I don't like doing. What's going to happen when his wife finds out? It's going to hit the fan, and he's not going to leave her anyway. Whatever. Those questions I keep answering. Anyway, the short version of that is, I understood that the confidence issue was more of what my mother did in my life. Like shouldn't be confident about anything, and I just went, oh, this is not about readings. I know I can do readings. I've got tons of validation for that over years, decades of validation. This is about my mother and a confidence issue. Oh, well, we'll just dump it over there with the other confidence issues that I've been working through all my life, and most of them are pretty well healed. So all of a sudden, I could not wait to do readings.
Awesome.
And they were better than ever.
That's good. Thank you so much for.
There's a bit of an echo there. So if you guys have found that your life is a bit tits up as well, and that is Liberty's slogan, not mine, although I would totally say something like that. You guys know me, who've been hanging out with me long enough, know that I speak French around here. So if you are noticing that Spirit's trying to get a hold of you to move into the realm of developing your intuitive gifts and sharing that with the planet, the Akashic Academy can support you in doing that. One of the first steps is just by liking this page and hanging out with other people who are interested in expanding their own consciousness and understanding about their gifts and their skills. There are modalities that you can learn to help you get in touch with those gifts and skills. The Akashic Records was my path of doing that. If you feel synchronous with that, I can help you with the Akashic Records. If you feel like the tarot or other card decks, I've got tons of decks around. If you feel synchronous with card decks, start exploring yourself. Order yourself a deck of cards and start practicing with other divination tools. Follow your instincts and create that space in your life for this to come to the surface, because the planet needs this at this time. You need to show up for yourself at this time. And there are no freaking excuses. You can connect with people who are interested in expanding their own consciousness and skills right here on Facebook. You don't even have to leave your house. Okay, it's not the same. That's not the same world when Liberty was experiencing all of these things coming to the surface, and there weren't psychic fairs, she said, and there, people weren't talking. It's not the same world anymore. There is support available to you, and I urge you to reach out and connect. You take the first step, and the rest of your path will beautifully unfold. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Liberty, thank you so much for showing up and serving us in this way. It was really beautiful. I could see that everybody else had powerful, fun time hanging out here with us. We are going to wrap this up and go for this afternoon, because at the top of the hour, 2 p.m. Pacific time, Jack Coleman will be coming on the Akashic Facebook page, the network here, and sharing life hacking with you guys. So Jack is a cutie patootie, so I invite you to go take a bathroom break, grab yourself a snack, and come back for Jack's show coming up. Thank you so much, my friend Liberty. We'll do this again.
Thank you.
Namaste, everybody. See you again.